Greetings. Don't mean to scare you Vietnam veterans off. My name is Joe Schneider. I'm with the Veterans Resource Network here in Omaha. And we have done a series of videos and PowerPoints to help educate the community and the veterans. Today we're just going to run through one real quick. We won't do a lot of stopping and discussion. But with the classroom, we really come up with a lot of good stuff. Most of this stuff comes from veterans and family members just like you, and we compile it. So as you're listening to this, as you go through some of these, your ideas are appreciated, and please contact if you have any. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we like to call gray matters, and we'll explain what that means a little bit later in the presentation. This is a peer support presentation for veterans, family members, and those that will be working with veterans. Okay, and the biggest thing that we find is needed is self-awareness, and we do that through taking a look at ourselves. We'll talk about that a little bit, but first of all, we're going to talk about recognition and acceptance. Recognizing what's going on in you, and then accepting what it is, and then further educating yourself on how to deal with it. Usually the problem isn't that you need therapy, the problem is you need education. And first off, we got a little saying, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. I really like that. It says a lot. It really does. We all need a purpose in life. In peer support, your background, no matter how bad, is valuable to somebody else. And in peer support, what we do is teach you how to use that to help others. Start out talking about worldview, or the way the world is versus how we perceive it. That's real important, to take a good look at why we perceive the world the way we do. Sometimes we have a really bad outlook on the world. The world is just a bad place. Is the world a safe place? How did it become that to you individually? How did you become the person that you are today? What made you who you are? Why do you react to things the way you do? To understand the way the things are on the outside, we need to take a look on the inside. So first we start off with recognition. Starts by looking inward, being honest with yourself, being honest with others, and talking about it. A strong belief that change or recovery is possible. It gives you hope. An important thing to ask. We'll be talking later on about the 4 pillars of life. One of them is spirituality, and I think hope is a big part of that. But to give hope a good hard look, what gives yourself hope? Ask yourself that. When you say something out loud, it takes on a different meaning. Everything sounds different when you say it out loud. Acceptance. After military or combat, we don't fear death as much as we do fear losing our minds. I can remember that very strongly. I'm a Vietnam veteran myself, combat, Marine Corps, and went through a lot, not as much as others, but didn't fear death, When I got out, I didn't know what was going on, and just funny things going on in my mind. I did fear losing my mind more than anything. We don't need therapy as much as we need education. Three random points here that limit us. If you wasn't there, you wouldn't understand. And that's something I think we need a disclaimer. I think we was conditioned to say that, all of us, all the way through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and now. A lot of people are even saying that. If you wasn't there, you wouldn't understand. The point is, you don't understand it either. I can remember feeling like that, and I didn't understand it. How do you explain to somebody else what you don't understand yourself? It's hard to do. The other one is, I can't talk to my wife. I don't want to burden her. That's probably the biggest mistake we all make. That is your biggest asset to recovery, to learning. Instead of being part of the problem, she becomes part of the solution. You work together. You go to classes like we give. If she's not with you, then you go home and you talk about what you learned. The other thing is, there are children in war. Ever since Vietnam, I remember distinctly as a Marine Corps infantryman, I had the best training in the world to survive in combat and be fully functional. However, nobody told me there were kids in the war. They're running all over, and they're doing it again today to you younger vets. They use them as shields, and it's very traumatic. How do you come home and tell your mom, to save my life, to save another person, I had to shoot through a child to kill somebody? Things like that. Being thrown in front of trucks to stop a convoy. That stuff's going on. None of us is talking about it. As I said before, how do you explain to somebody when you don't understand it yourself? When you do talk to your wife, she becomes part of the resolve, not the problem. Gives her a sense of helping. Since Vietnam, they have used kids as shields. Maybe it's time we all made it okay to talk about it. Maybe we wouldn't be so anxious to go to war if we knew that children were involved. 22 vets a day had no one to talk to. And of course, when I refer to the 22 veterans a day, I refer to the 22 a day that are committing suicide. And those are some of the reasons that we feel why. Something to think about. If we had somebody to talk to, if you really think that somebody doesn't understand and nobody could understand it, it doesn't matter. All they have to do is care. If you find somebody you care and you trust, talk to them, explain it to them, help them understand, help me understand, help everybody else understand. And it's going to be a better community in the end. Finding an unknown, and when I say finding an unknown, I mean we react to things for no reason at all, or react to things and we don't know why. Why did I do that? I think it's amazing that the human mind has this incredible ability to look at the things around them on an extreme in combat or driving your car and deduct what's going on, react to it in a safe way. We really are good using our brains that way, but nobody looks into their brains. It's so hard to understand what's going on inside. Why don't we look in there? Okay, a good way to do it is to start out by your feelings or sensation when an unknown happens. When an unknown happens, I mean you're probably triggered by something, you don't know why, but all of a sudden you have a crummy feeling. All of a sudden you're depressed. All of a sudden you're angered. Where'd that come from? Try to monitor that feeling. And when you do monitor that feeling, try to remember back the last time you felt that. Reflect back. Go ahead and explore that feeling. It might be, normally it is in childhood, a lot of things from childhood, a lot of things in combat that we buried, you know. There might be something buried there, and I'm not saying go ahead and try to dig up hidden feelings, but just identify where that feeling comes from. Once you can identify that, yeah, that's the same time I felt when that little kid popped up in Vietnam, then it loses the power over you just by the identification. You don't have to be dramatic. You don't have to get into it. You don't have to try to figure it out. Just recognize it and accept that it's there. I still have that happen to myself after years and years of going through therapy and education. And it still happens to me. When it does it today, I can just recognize it. Yep, know where that's coming from. Salute it and move on. I'm going to talk about the 3 stages of life. Everybody goes through them, it doesn't matter military or not. And they're different stages, different ways to look at them. These are 3 ways I think that are good to look at them. The first one is surviving. We've all been through that, especially when we get out of the service. We learn to survive. Just doing enough to get by. Avoiding triggers, reminders, self-medication maybe. 10 years of drinking for me. exerting extra energy just to stay alive. And the biggest killer for us all, isolation. How many of you are living in the basement? How many know somebody living in the basement? Not coming out, not doing anything. Isolation is a big killer. The next stage is living. You're looking for your place, or you're looking for your gift in life. Being a productive person. That's what we all want. We all need to be productive, have a purpose in life, and becoming aware of the four pillars in life. And here's where we're going to talk about it. Now, a lot of these things, again, don't come from me. This isn't all my ideas. The four pillars of life I actually learned from Dr. Jai Sukram at Community Alliance, who we work very close with. Wonderful doctor and very good educator. The first one I'm going to look at is staying in a good physical shape. And we do have a gym out here. We have a trainer. He can help you out with diets, how to stay healthy. Expanding your social network is the next pillar. Your social involvement is very important. And what we can offer here is come out and get with the veterans first and use us as a stepping stone to get back in the community. We all started out in the community, and that's where we belong. Psychological balance. Now, that's a tough one, and that's where a lot of the education comes in. I dealt with PTSD myself for quite a long time. 10 years for me before I went in for help. I self-medicated with alcohol, quit drinking through the influence of my favorite uncle, and the demons caught up with me. I couldn't drown them anymore, so to speak. I went to the vet center finally, didn't want to go to the VA, and they told me that at the time, it was like 1981, they just started calling it PTSD. They really didn't have a test for it, so they tested me psychologically and stuff, determined that I did have PTSD. They told me I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's no cure, and that really ticked me off. I set out to find one, and I did find one for myself. You can all find it for yourself. Getting back again, recovery is possible. Finding spirituality, and here's where we can call it hope. We don't have to call it religion, call it hope. What gives you hope? What gives you spirituality? When you talk about religion, spirituality, and hope, sit down with a piece of paper and draw a picture of that. That's something, that's a verb. That's something that you do need. It's very important. We get into that a little bit deeper in some of our other classes. Hey, and the third of life is thriving. When you find your niche in life. Once we find our niche in life, boy, it's great. It really is. Sharing your gift with others. Remember we talked about the purpose of life is to find your gift, and the meaning of life is to give it away. Once you start doing that, connecting with others, all this stuff starts to fit together. It really does. And we become a human being again, where before maybe we didn't. Using the negative of your past as a tool for you to learn and teach. That really gives us a purpose. Everything in your past, no matter how negative it was, no matter how it was, where it came from, male, female, doesn't matter. In peer support, we teach you how to use that past to help others. So all that stuff is valuable. When you sign up to get a job as a peer support, all that crap in your past is the biggest thing on your resume. Learn from yesterday. Live for today, hope for tomorrow. I think that's a real good saying to live by. Hey, using your military experience to better connect with others. We all remember the military, and I don't care if you was in combat, had the worst thing in your life, the worst experiences. The one thing we miss more than anything is camaraderie, that closeness. And we come out and we're seeking it, whether if we know it or not. When entering boot camp, we all have a bag of bias, our worldview. We all take it with us. Some of us are cocky, some of us are shy. However we was raised, we bring it to boot camp. And then we're all stripped of that and become equal, connected, and as one. At least they try to. The experiences of this in the extreme is combat. In combat, it doesn't matter where you're from, what religion you are, or what color. The only color we was concerned with then was red. And you know what I mean. The only color we should be concerned with now is gray matter. The only thing we care about is keeping each other alive. It's why we all miss today the camaraderie. I know you can all connect with that, even if he wasn't in combat, wasn't in the service, maybe your family, your mom, your dad, a brother, sister, cousin, whatever, that person you was close to. That's what we all need in life. We are wired to be with other people. We're not wired to be by ourselves. I heard it said that the caveman misses the tribe. That goes way back to when we first developed as human beings. The caveman misses the tribe. Here's the color we're concerned with, gray matter. So a couple things we can do to start out with is reduce our bag of bias and care. Remember I talked about how the care is the most important thing when you're talking to somebody. It don't matter what your background is, what your credentials are. If you care, I'm going to talk to you. Reduce your bag of bias. That gets back to your worldview, doesn't it? Some of the things we've brought up with. And those are some of the things we need to be aware of and maybe think about those things. And the important part is when you care to not be judgmental. We're not going to judge people. Do you sit and listen or wait to talk? Sometimes it's evident in some people they're just sitting there waiting to tell you something, no matter what you say. I think it's an important question for all of us to ask ourselves. Do you sit and listen or wait to talk? That kind of says itself. Human transceiver. Now, I was going to talk about this a little bit. I haven't talked too much about it. My background, when I got out, I used my GI Bill to go to electronics school, and I learned a little bit about electricity. I'm also a ham radio operator and have pretty good clear understanding of how radio works and some of those things. We're talking about a transceiver and a human transceiver. In a regular transceiver, there is a radio that can transmit and receive. Whenever there's a flow of electricity, a signal is transmitted. Now, it's very predominant back when I was growing up, driving around the dirt roads, and all we had was AM radio, and you drive underneath a power wire, and you hear that's a 60-cycle hum. That electricity flowing in that wire is actually transmitting a signal into the radio. Our brain and body is an electrical device functioning by this same flow. What I'm getting at, in other words, there's electricity flowing all throughout our body. As this electricity is flowing, it's basic science. We are putting out a signal, whether if it makes sense to anybody or not. I guess you can think about, did you ever meet anybody that you just instantly felt good with? You really liked them just right off the bat, or somebody you just instantly hated? Probably wasn't in tune with them. We can really get into it and talk about it in depth. I don't know if it's been directed anywhere before, but there is an unspoken communication between people besides body language, and I think we need to be aware of this. Related to those facts, on a sports team or in a military, when we're in the game, when we're performing our duty, or in combat, we seem to communicate without talking. We have all experienced it on some level before. I know it was very predominant when I was in Vietnam. I knew where everybody was. I almost could read their mind and they could read mine. We functioned as one entity all together. And I think these are kind of the reasons why. I remember getting out, and when I got into electronics school, I thought, wow, I wonder how that works. Because I'm the kind of guy that I want to know the nuts and bolts of everything. Why does the mind do this? Why do we do this? And that might be a touch on it. We can get into it a little bit deeper, but for the purpose of this presentation, just be aware there's something going on there, okay? What lies before us and what lies behind us are small matters compared to what lies within us. And what we want to do is improve what lies within us through education, through talking to each other, learning. Think outside the box. Get out of your box. Get out of the basement. Come on out and see us. Thank you for tuning in, listening to me go on and on and on. Come to one of our classes. I even go on a lot more. But it's fun. We talk to each other. We get in depth. Please visit our website, all small letters, all small words, veteransinthecommunity.com. We're out at the North Omaha Airport today recording this, and we have a lot of good things going on out here that we're setting up for veterans. Get out of town a little bit and come see us. We have a full gym set up. You can work out. We have Wi-Fi out here. We have a PlayStation, pool table. This is also where we give our classes. We're affiliated with a lot of other organizations around town, and we'll list those on our website eventually. We're still setting it up. But I've been in the community since 1970, mid-70s, early 70s. In the veteran community, I'm talking about trying to make a difference in the community for me and our other veterans. We know a lot of people. We have a lot of connections. Anything that's bothering you, your family member, we can guide you in the right direction. Really appreciate you watching. Please stay tuned. We'll have more.